Okay, everyone. Today we got Kindness of the Heart, Scarlet Spider Love Story by Ali96. Chapter 1. Nearly Run Down and the Meaning. June 20th, 2016. Cold, freezing cold. That's all been felt as we walked through the empty streets of New York. The rain was pouring down from the sky and stung Ben's skin right through his suit. That had been already drenched from being in the Hudson Bay. It was night after Ben Rowley had crashed HYDRA Island into the bay after he had destroyed Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. He's not proud of what he did. In fact, he hates what he did, and he hates himself for it. If he could, he would go back in time and change it all. But he can't, and he hates that even more. He was standing on the shore, looking out into the bay where the Triskelion was, debating if he should go back there. He decided against it. He can't go back, not after everything he's done. He can't face them again. He's too ashamed to. Everyone thought he was dead, and that's how he wants it to stay. He then walked off, not even sure where to go. He was aimlessly wandering the streets, trying to find a place to get dry. A little red 2011 Chevy Cruze was driving down the surprisingly empty street as rain continued to pour down. The driver of the car was a girl around 18 years old, with long, light brown, curly hair, tan skin, and emerald eyes. She was wearing a black trench coat with a red, tight-fitting tank top, pale blue jeans, and black and white Converse sneakers. She was driving home late from her workplace as a veterinary assistant at the local animal clinic in Midtown. She had just graduated high school for the summer and was living on her own for the first time in her life. Her job allows her to pay rent for her penthouse apartment, pay the bills, and groceries. She's happy with the way she lives, being independent and living her own life, not like she was before. She wasn't rich. She just inherited her grandfather's fortune, which was close to Sorry, guys. Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do this home alone. So if you probably can't tell by background, my mom is here. So just bear with me. Anyway, let's continue. She wasn't rich. She just inherited her grandfather's fortune, which was close to $150,000. She used some of the money to rent her penthouse apartment and save the rest while she used the money she gets from her job to pay the rent. The girl just sighed as she watched as her window wipers went back and forth. She hated the rain. It made her feel depressed and miserable, and that's why she couldn't wait to get home. She then heard her phone buzzing, signaling that she had an incoming text. She reached inside her purse that was in the back seat and grabbed her phone out of her purse. She took her eyes off the road for a second to read what the text said. She rolled her eyes in annoyance at it was that texted her. She then shook her head as she placed her phone back in her purse and looked back onto the road. Then suddenly, screech! She slammed on her brakes when, in the middle of the street, was a guy in a red and black spider suit, drenched, standing in front of her car. Oh my God, she gasped. As she threw off her seatbelt and opened her car door and ran to him. Are you okay? She asked, as the rain stung her face, but she didn't care. She noticed that he was shivering. Who are you? He shivered out, his teeth chatting lightly. It's okay. My name is Melina, and I'm going to help you, she said as she took off her trench coat and draped it over him. You poor thing, you must be frozen half to death. Scarlet tugged on the edges of the coat and brought it closer to him. Come on, she said, as she wrapped one arm around his shoulder and held his arm as she helped him walk over to her car. "Just sit here while I turn the heat on," she said as she opened the passenger door and he sat inside. Melina closed the door as she ran back to the driver's side, sat down, and slammed the door shut as she turned the heat on. She waited a few minutes before asking, "Does that feel better?" "A little bit," he said with a slight shiver. "Okay, I'm going to get you back to my place where you can get warmed up and some hot food in you," Melina said as she turned her car back on and drove back down the street. "So, what's your name?" she asked while she kept her eyes on the road. "I assume you have one." She looked over at him. "Scarlet Spider," he said, not looking at her, as he kept his head down. "Scarlet Spider, huh? That's a cool name. What about your real one?" she asked as she looked back to the road. "Ben Riley." "Well, it's nice to meet you, Ben Riley," Melina said with a small smile on her face as she kept her eyes on the road. For the rest of the ride home, Ben was quiet and he kept his head down, not looking at Melina. When Ben wasn't looking, Melina took a glance at him. What happened to him? Melina thought to herself as she drove him back to her home.